Former President Trump has become much friendlier with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general. He even said that week that he would accept cryptocurrencies as campaign gifts, which brings us back to this idea. This is a problem that comes up every election year, and I can't even tell you how angry our Kia was when he saw this. He screamed. It was less than 3 days after being turned down. We were sure it would be turned down, and I believe it was during this election year. You have the legislative branch. You have Trump, who was president before. You had quickfire, and now we're here. Even though she thought the price of Bitcoin would reach $1.5 million, Cathie Wood, founder and CEO of ARK Invest, is now even more excited about the biggest cryptocurrency by market value. Cathie is hopeful about Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency business because of how well Bitcoin ETFs have done since January. ETFs have regularly done better than expected and brought in tens of billions of dollars, even when the market had a few bad weeks. According to New News, Elliott was a huge success. Cathie thinks that more money will come in as wirehouses spread the things into trad new finance. She believes that these ETFs will not do as well as big banks like Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America. Cathie believes that ETF sales will increase from billions of dollars to hundreds of billions of dollars. Several news outlets are interested in Bitcoin ETFs and the cryptocurrency itself. Cathie is changing her plans for 1 million dual Bitcoin because she thinks it will make Bitcoin worth more. She now thinks that we will reach this very long timeline a lot earlier than 2030. Here are some of the most important parts of her talk with Peter McCormack at CoinDesk's Consensus 2024 meeting. If you like this movie, please subscribe to the channel and turn on post alerts. In our early days, a lot of people found ARK through Bitcoin. These people were in the business space and were just buying for their own accounts. These are the big players we now talk to, like Morgan Stanley, UBS, Merrill Lynch, and Wells Fargo, what we call wirehouses. They are doing a lot of research to figure out what this is all about. Now we need to have an opinion. There is an index that will be used to judge them, and that index is an ETF, right? Now Bitcoin is going to be a part of how they're graded. None of the spot Bitcoin ETFs are on any big platform yet, but we think that will change soon. Their questions tell us what they want to know. They have a lot of questions, not just about Bitcoin, but also about operations, infrastructure, and risks. This is a new type of currency, so the heat is on. The Bitcoin is a new type of currency. It's a currency system, but it's also a new type of asset. In our world, that means that as a fiduciary, someone who manages people's portfolios, that person has to think about this new type of asset because its returns and risks aren't very similar to those of other assets. If you add Bitcoin to an existing portfolio, if that is right, and this is a low correlation asset, then returns per unit of risk will go up over time. One platform must have Bitcoin in order to offer the chance for diversification and better risk-adjusted returns, while the other must not. If this one is right, they will have a problem. This past month, at a Bitcoin event in London, Matt Hugin, CIO of Bitwise, talked a lot about how important wirehouses are and how they will affect spot Bitcoin ETFs. Hugin thought that big national banks like Morgan Stanley and UBS would make it much easier for people to buy Bitcoin ETFs, which would make demand go up many times over. Cathie talked about how the political scene in Washington is changing, especially when it comes to the Bitcoin business. The U.S. House of Representatives passed the Finance Technology for the 21st Century Act FIT 2.1 last Wednesday. FIT 2.1 controls cryptocurrencies and gives the Crypto-Friendly Commodity Futures Trading Commission CFTC and Gary Gensler different tasks to do. LISEC, the measure says that the SEC is in charge of controlled blockchain networks and the CFTC is in charge of decentralized ones. Cathie says the bill is a huge win for the cryptocurrency business. The fact that 71 Democrats voted in favor of it makes it even bigger, she says. This backing from both parties shows that people are becoming more open to and optimistic about regulating cryptocurrencies. Investor hope. Let's go back to the video. They can move up or down. Now you have an environment. This isn't just about the 10 companies or how many are still open, but the ecosystem and organization are very flexible because the authorized participants or market makers are not all part of the same company. I don't know if any have completely failed yet. There are dozens of approved participants, and most of them are large brokerage firms, so this is another reason why they're not being forced to do this. Instead, the ecosystem of authorized participants and market makers is tempting them to do it because it's a very profitable environment. This wirehouse is home to a lot of them. I believe we could go up to hundreds of billions of dollars since it wasn't going to be let through. It was not going to be allowed at all. What did happen? If it had been cleared the normal way, we would have been getting questions, like from the SEC and everyone else. No one was getting questions from the SEC ahead of time. That was a sign that it wasn't going to work. We'll have to try it again. One thing that happened in a week, and I really believe this was one of them, was that people in the House started to think, wait a minute, this is picking up steam on both sides of the aisle. Also, this really could be a problem in this election year. This is an election year. That's what I think the government said. Oh, and another thing is that former President Trump has become a lot friendlier with Bitcoin and crypto in general. And that same week, he said he would take cryptocurrency as campaign funds. Again, this idea is important during election years. I can't even tell you how angry Arkeo was when he saw this, like 3 days after being turned down. I was on the phone with him at the time. We were sure that it would be turned down. And I believe it was this election year. You have the legislative branch. You have Trump, who was president before. You had quick fire, and now we're here. So I don't think the wirehouses will agree. There might be two, or these two, or Solana. Even so, I don't think the wirehouse platforms will want to do more than the big ones, do you? So that their customers could try out this new type of asset. I do believe, and we have some of these ideas, that private funds will sort through the thousands of them and probably find 20 or 30 good ones. They will have to do a lot of research, though, since you say there's a lot of crap going on in the world. I read that Art Laffer is one of his advisors, but I need to check the source. Also, Art Laffer and I were just in El Salvador together. So, and I've seen how Art has changed. He is 83 years old. He has worked for almost every president, but since Nixon, none of them have paid him. Yes, I mean on both sides of the aisle. He's also more excited about Bitcoin. I've known him since 1976. He taught me at the University of Southern California, USC. He's never been this excited about something. He is 83 years old now. More excited about anything since California's Proposition 13, which changed the property tax system. But he's more excited about this because it affects the whole world, not just California at that time. Besides that, there is still a lot of interest in BlackRock's elliott and other U.S.-based Bitcoin ETFs. Bitcoin-based ETFs saw inflows for the 12th day in a row on Wednesday. This is the biggest streak of positive flows since February, when it was 14 days.